Hi everyone, welcome to your Netball Smart Health session. My name is Sam. I'm sorry that I can't be with you guys today. I am recovering from a bit of an injury/surgery, but hopefully this will be totally engaging and you'll be able to do all the activities in little groups and report back to each other and we'll get through it. So Netball Smart, no longer just a warm-up. I think most of you might be aware of all the bits and pieces that Netball Smart covers across a wide range of principles that help create netballers who are athletes, but also give us athletes or netballers responsibilities to become better people. So we're going to look at the whole picture today. What makes up a well athlete? So when we talk about well-being in netball, we talk about the player taking responsibility for their own personal well-being of their whole body, inside and out. So first activity, we need to get into groups of 4 to 5 or 6 at a push, but 4 to 5 would be good. But before you do that, I'll quickly explain what the activity is. So in each of your groups, you're going to get a little cutout of a person like this. And in your groups, I want you to label as many parts of the body as you can, particularly areas that give us red or green flags, like as in green flag, good, red flag, not so good, of what health might look like. So for example, if we're thinking about the head, we might be thinking about the brain, which means we might be thinking about our mental well-being. So what is a green flag for our mental well-being? What would a healthy netballer/athlete look like in terms of their mental well-being? Second example, maybe we're thinking about a specific body part, like maybe the lungs. If we are a healthy athlete, what are some green flags for our lungs? What might our lungs look like if we were a healthy athlete? So we're creating a super duper healthy green flag athlete. Cover off as many parts of the body as you can, and then we're going to report back to each other, or you're going to report back to each other, and then turn me back on again, and we will dive a little bit deeper into each of these body parts. And I'm going to try and predict what you're going to write on the page, and we'll go even deeper into those green flags and how we can be a healthy person. So first things first, get into groups. Second thing, label as many parts of the body as you can with green flags. What would a healthy athlete look like? Okay, now that you've got a few things written down on your cutout, we're going to dive deeper into a few of them. So we are going to start at the top and move down. So starting at the head, I've written a green flag for an athlete in terms of their brain is that they're mentally stable, they're focused, and they're driven. So how can we create an athlete who is mentally stable, focused, and driven in their mind? So those are some really good green flags of a good athlete. But actually, what are some things that you can put into practice to create a brain that works like that? So I want you to get into some groups again. So maybe you're back into the groups that created this person. And in your group, you're going to use a blank sheet of paper, and you're going to come up with a day in the life of your person. You can give them a name if you want, their recovery day. So what does a recovery day look like for your person so that their brain gets a rest, so that they're switched on, and so they're ready to go again for the week? So maybe this could be a Sunday. They played netball on a Saturday. Now they've got a Sunday of complete rest, because remember, it's important to have a whole day off sport. But what does that look like in terms of recovery? I don't think it's just sitting around on the couch at home watching Netflix, but it might be doing a few things to fill your cup up, to rest your brain, and to give you a really good head start to get into the rest of the week. So how can you give your brain a good rest on one day? So using one day to get it really good. So you might label in the morning, you wake up after a X amount of hours sleep, and then you do all these things to tick off during the day to make you feel really good. All right, so I want you to have a think about it. Decide your person's ideal day of rest so that they can be the green flag athlete. All right, I'll give you a few minutes to do this before you can flick me back on again. All right, so hopefully you've all got a really good day of rest, and maybe you might want to take that home with you, all those thoughts and ideas anyway, and use them for your day after this magic in the making day, because you probably will be ready for a good day of rest. All right, let's move down the body. So now I'm going to focus on, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the stomach. So as we know, what we put in is what we get out. So if we feed our bodies really, really good stuff, then hopefully we're giving our body lots of energy so that we can perform. Now, we're going to quickly cover off carbohydrates. We use those for energy. Protein, we use that for muscle recovery. Vegetables, we use that to give us some glow for our skin, for our immunity, good vitamins and minerals, and then a little bit of sprinkling of healthy fats on top of all that. So those are our 4 key food groups. We're going to focus on one of those today. So we're going to focus on protein. So in New Zealand, the majority of girls in New Zealand of all ages don't actually eat enough protein. So we're going to have a little bit of an exploration on what some good healthy protein options might be. So some of you might be wondering how much protein is enough protein, or how do I know I'm eating enough protein? So the recommended intake of protein, especially for players like yourselves who play a lot of sport and are pretty active during the week, is 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per times your body weight per day. So for example, if you were 50 kilos, 2 times 50 is 100. So you want to be eating a maximum of 100 grams of protein a day. Now that's like hard to figure out, and I don't want you to go around calorie counting and figuring out how much is what. But if it's not something that we know, it's really hard to actually get an idea in our heads of what that might look like. So we're going to do a little bit of an exploration. So in your groups again, I want you to give your person any old number weight. Now we're not actually worried about the weight of the person. We're making sure that we're getting enough protein on, depending on their needs. And remember, these are really sporty people. They're really active. So we need to make sure that they're getting the right amount of protein to deliver enough muscle recovery throughout their whole body. So give, maybe in the top corner, weigh your person. Give them a random number of weight. Remember, they're a 14 to 18-year-old female. And then I want you to calculate, we'll go 2 times, so they're super, super active, 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. So if they're 50 kilos, 50 times 2 equals 100. So they need 100 grams of protein throughout the day. Now, what does 100 grams of protein look like, you might ask? Well, this is your next challenge. You're going to give them 5 meals, breakfast, morning tea, lunch, afternoon tea and dinner, 5 meals on another piece of paper, and you're going to use your phones or in your head already what some ideas might be of calculating enough protein for the day. So you might need to use your phone and figure out how much protein does 2 eggs have, and if that's approximately 15 grams, then you write breakfast, 15 grams of protein. Now they still need 85 grams of protein throughout the day. So maybe they need to have a glass of milk, which might be 11 grams of protein. So you add that on top. So by the end, we might have a tally down the side equaling 100 grams of protein, and then at what point of the day we're eating that protein. So this is just giving you a really good idea of actually how much protein we might need, and have a brainstorm of some different ideas of protein. So we're not going eggs all day. Okay, so have a play around in your groups, come up with your menu for the day, mostly making sure you're hitting your protein. I'm not worried about the other stuff right now. I just want you to make sure you understand how much protein and where we can get our protein from. Good luck. Okay, moving down the body. So we've covered off our brain, our stomach, and now we're moving down to one that maybe some of you might not have written down, or ticked into your person or given a label to, but that's the menstrual cycle. Now this is a really, really choice tool for us females to use to give us an indicator of green flags or red flags. If we're healthy, our menstrual cycle is a really good indicator that things are going well. If we have a good regular cycle that's doing what it's supposed to do. If we're not so healthy, sometimes the first sign that our body shows is our periods or our menstrual cycles going a little bit awry. So we're going to do a little individual task. Everybody's going to get their own period report card. So this is your period report card, and you're just going to have a little look at it, potentially fill it out if you know your cycle, if you can think about it in your head now. Don't have to discuss this with anyone, but I'm just going to quickly cover off why this is really important. So when we go into what we might call a limited energy availability, that means that we're not getting enough energy for the things that we're doing. So we're not eating enough food. Now this is important because if we don't eat enough food, not only do we start playing well, or we can't focus, or life just feels a little bit hard, other things inside our body start shutting down. Now, menstrual cycle, our cycle was created, we have a cycle so that we can reproduce, whether that's now or in the future. That's the reason for it. Now, our bodies are really smart, and our brains are really smart, and they're like, that is totally not necessary right now. So I don't need to be using this, so I'm going to shut that down. So if stuff starts going wrong with our periods or our menstrual cycle, then one of the first red flags that we might get is that we stop getting our periods, or our periods might look a little bit different, or they get a bit heavier or a bit sorer. So things that we have to be aware of that maybe we're not aware of, they're giving us red flags. Yeah, so on your period report card, down one column, it's going to say what is normal. So normal is such a difficult word because everybody's normal is different, but this is just in the general population what a period might look like. So the age, the length of your period, the length of your cycle. Now your cycle is from day one of your period to the next day one of your period. So that's the length of your cycle. And in that cycle, our body goes through all sorts of hormonal differences, and stuff happens in the middle of it that's really important. Blood loss, pain, and premenstrual symptoms. So there's some things that are normal. Now I want you to really think about what it might look like for you. And if you haven't had your period yet, that's all good too. That could be, you can just put that in the first column there, or just don't even write on your paper if you don't want to. Have a little think about it, yeah? Because this is something that we get told what's normal, but actually what does that mean for me? And you can take this home, have a little think about it, talk to your parents about it. If there's something that maybe is a little bit of a red flag, I want you to reflect on maybe why, and if you can't come up with an answer, it's always a good time to see the doctor. All right, so take a minute or two here to hand these out, have a little look at them, fill them out, and I'll see you again for our last little healthy person tip. Okay, we're back, but I just want to say one more thing. Alongside this, you feel free to have a look in your SmartHealth booklet that you're all going to get given, because in that it explains all the stuff that I was talking about in a lot more detail. So that can be really helpful for you to go away and read, as well as your parents to read, and just create a bit more of an understanding about what's actually going on inside you and why. So the last thing we're going to think about on our cutout is our legs. So some of you might have put green flag knees or green flag ankles, and that's really choice, because as netballers and as athletes, we need to have healthy joints, and we need to have good range of motion in those joints to be able to do things like jump and land. We also need to have good strength in our legs, because our legs put up with a lot at netball. A lot of change of direction, a lot of jump and land. So we're going to do a little practical exercise. So I know you already have done already the testing. So I'm not going to make you do testing per se, but we are just going to test out in a very not too strenuous way what our range of motion and the strength of our important leg muscles is like. Because as females, this can let us down a little bit, which is hard because netball is such a physically demanding sport on our knees and ankles. So what we need to do here is, bear with me. Okay, we're going to do a test. So I want everyone, when I've finished explaining it, you're going to go to the wall. The first test is going to be a knee to wall. So this is measuring the range of motion in our ankles. So I want you to stand right up against a wall and see how my toes are about that far away from the wall. I'm going to keep my heels on the ground and I'm going to bend my knee and try and touch the wall without raising that heel off the ground. Yeah, so that was about this far. And I'm going to drag my heel back a little bit, see if I can get my knee to the wall. Now this is testing our calf length, but also the range of motion in our ankles. And if this is a bit stiff, when we jump and land, our ankles aren't going to bend much, which means our knees won't bend much, which means we're going to land in a straight position, which isn't good for knees or ankles. All right, so have a little play around with that. See if both your ankles have the same range, so try it on both sides. If one's a bit worse than the other, that's a good reminder or a little telling story that maybe you need to work on your ankle mobility in both, or one more than the other. All right, so do that in some groups, and then we'll do one more thing after. Okay, final activity is still relating to our legs. So we've got our ankle strength or our ankle range and mobility. We also need to check out our knees. So our knees are super important, but they can be a little bit vulnerable because netball is a full-on jumping and landing game. And if our knees give way, that can result in a whole host of different problems. So we really need to make sure we've got good, strong quads and good, strong hammies, which are behind our knees. So we're going to do another little test. We're going to do a wall sit. All right, so this is a really good indicator of our quad strength. So we're going to slide down the wall until our hamstrings are about a good 90-degree angle, or they're parallel to the ground. We're going to press our back flat against the wall, and we're going to cross our hands over our chest. So we don't put our hands on our knees, we keep them crossed. That's sweet as, we can hang out there all day. This is the real test. We're going to put our weight onto one leg and lift off the other foot and see if we can hold that for 10 seconds. Okay, so this is going to test out our quad strength, hammy strength, and knee strength. And if we can't do that for very long, that just tells us we need to work on it. All right, so a couple of exercises, and then we've ticked off all the things that we have time for today on our healthy person. And enjoy the rest of your Magic in the Making weekend. Good job, everybody.